Now it's time for our final guest this morning. She's been described as Manchester's top motoring defence lawyer. Yes, we're joined today by Jeanette Miller. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Pleasure.
Now, when we say motoring offences, what is it exactly that we mean?
Well, my firm, Geoffrey Solicitors, is involved in representing motorists for any kind of motoring offence taken through the magistrates or Crown Court. So it can range from going through a red traffic light right up to something a lot more serious, such as a fatality caused by some kind of driving irregularity.
And we're not necessarily talking about them being innocent, are we?
Well, many of my clients will use the legislation to assist them in actually getting off an offence, but if they are found innocent, then they are innocent in the legal sense of the word. So there are many clients that we come across who do come to me with some kind of factual defence, such as I genuinely wasn't speeding. The speed gun may have said I was, but I wasn't, and that, you know, that is what I think the lay people will see as true innocence. Other people will use the legislation and technicalities or loopholes within the law to try to actually avoid penalty. So we represent both types of offenders.
Now, even when we do mention loopholes, it's still 100% legal, the conduct you do, isn't it?
What we do, we basically will not stray from the letter of the law, and we will use that law to our client's advantage. What astounds me a lot of the time is we get lots of professionals, business people getting in touch with me saying somebody down the pub or wherever has told them, tell the police that it was somebody else driving, not me, and that is a very serious criminal offence. So we would never get involved in advocating something like that.
So you're not in any way promoting, you know, any misconduct or any illegal practices?
Absolutely not.
Or
I mean,
any,
my practicing certificate
honest
would be at stake if I were to do anything like that, and all my staff, I mean, I have a team of lawyers that work for me, and we're all very much aware of the need to be lawful in the work that we do.
So you're a very honest company,
We are,
and
to be honest, there are many lawful defences available to motorists, and if somebody does have an offence pending, then the best advice I can give is for them to actually get in touch with us at the very earliest opportunity, because there are all sorts of things that can be done without breaking the law.
Okay. Could you talk us through a typical scenario then about where there might be a loophole in the law?
Well, there are all sorts. There are so many, and it really does depend on the type of case. We get involved in cases ranging from, say, for example, speeding, and there is one fairly recently I can talk about where a chap was accused of speeding fairly close to a school, so he knew he had been going below the limit. And when he was stopped, he was asked by the police officer, what speed do you think you were going? He said, I was going below the limit. She wasn't accepting that, and he actually took the case to court himself to begin with. He became unstuck because there are lots of technicalities, and he felt that he was being sort of railroaded into being forced to plead guilty, but he actually instructed me in the end. And the issues in that case were to do with calibration of the actual speed gun itself, and whether the police officer had done various checks that they were meant to before and after they'd actually stopped him and alleged him to have been speeding.
Okay.
So it's to do with the equipment that the police officer used in that case. Other cases, I mean, there's all sorts of things, and to give you examples, we could be here all day.
It's very, very diverse.
Yes, and very technical as well.
Now, if there are such loopholes, a lot of people might say, well, why hasn't the law been modified and adjusted to cover this?
Well, I think at the end of the day, we use the law itself, the wording of the law in many cases, and that takes a long time to be drafted. It costs a lot of money for that legislation to come into force. Laws are adapted and changed so that loopholes are closed fairly, I would say rarely with the motoring side of things, because it is very difficult to make the legislation stand up and to close some of these gaps. At the end of, well, in many of the cases we get involved in, what we're using is a very age-old principle which has got nothing to do with technicalities, but is actually putting the prosecution to proof. So in other words, you're innocent until proven guilty, and if you're able to put doubt into the case because of various issues that the prosecution are unable to cover, then that's how we get people off. So you could never change that principle. But laws are changing. In my career there have been loopholes closed, but it just takes a long time.
But do you think there might be a danger then that these loopholes are allowing people that perhaps should be punished to get, you know, away scot-free as such?
No, I think we have a system here where we live in a democracy, and the law is drafted in such a way as to be fair, and I see many unfair cases where there are situations where somebody is convicted and they shouldn't be. So I think there has to be balance, and the technical nature of what we do is one of the things that enables us to have a fair system.
Okay, now let's talk about cost. You do work with a lot of high-profile celebrities and businessmen who may have an awful lot of money, and obviously we can't name any today, unfortunately. That'd be a bit of a scandal. But you know, is it accessible for everybody, this service?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, Geoffrey Miller Solicitors, we're a team of lawyers. We're quite like any other firms, because there's a wide spectrum of lawyers that I've trained personally who are able to assist. So we have people ranging from taxi drivers right up to MPs, footballers, many celebrities.
And everybody gets the same service?
They do. If somebody wants to have a premium level service, which we offer, then there is a higher charge for that. But some people are quite happy to have the sort of standard service, if you like, which is a VIP service, because everybody is trained to actually give that and to have that expertise. But if they did want to have me, for example, personally dealing with the case, then it would cost a lot more.
Okay, now you've recently launched a petition, haven't you, on the
Yes.
Downing Street website. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, as part of what I do, I'm actually also president of the Association of Motor Offence Lawyers, and there was a consultation back in November last year by the government to try to save money. At the moment, if you're taken to court and you're found not guilty, you get your costs back from the court, so you're not out of pocket. And the government want to change this so that if you're taken to court, you're found not guilty, you wouldn't get all of your costs back under the new system, so you'd get about 20% of them back, which I just don't think is fair. You know, you've proven your innocence, whether it be through a technicality or the speeding chap that I mentioned earlier, and you're going to be significantly out of pocket. And this is something, in my view, that affects 27 million motorists in this country. But people may not think it affects them because they haven't been in court yet. You could be in court for no reason. You could be completely innocent, but you'd have to pay to prove your name or to prove your case. And then even once you've proved it, you'd be out of pocket. The petition I've set up is against this law actually coming into force, and it can be found on the AMOL website. It's www.amol.uk.com. And I'd really love it if your viewers would sign it.
Well, you've had over 3,500 people signing it so far, so it is proving to be quite successful.
It is, and the best news last week, I was actually at the Houses of Parliament last week, and I met with the Shadow Minister for Justice, Henry Bellingham, and he assures me that he's actually going to be calling for a vote for a parliamentary debate on the issue, because it has been kind of swept under the carpet.
Well, the Conservatives have backed it, haven't they?
Yes.
They've shown you their support, so that's fantastic. And any word from Labour?
They haven't responded as yet, and I think this is what the vote's going to be about. But we've got other organisations, the Association of British Drivers, the AA. We've got lots of high-profile QCs who've signed the petition. So I think people who are aware of the issue and understand exactly how far-reaching it could be are very much in support of it. It's just getting that message out there.
And because of those, the loopholes that you are sort of working with, do you fear that there might be a bit of a backlash towards the work you do? From the government, perhaps?
No, I don't think so, because I think the people in government do understand that what I don't do anything unlawful, and the legislation is there for them to change if they want to close loopholes. This has got nothing to do with that. This is to do with people actually paying privately to have representation because there isn't anything available to them under the legal aid scheme, and then they're being out of pocket at the end of it, and it's just not fair.
And like you said, it can affect absolutely everybody, even if somebody hasn't been yet affected. There's nothing to say that if you're a motorist in the very near future, it could be something that directly affects you.
Well, in 2007 there were 1.4 million motorists taken to court, the magistrates' court, and 26% of those, so nearly 400,000 people, were found not guilty. So that's quite a lot of people it could affect.
Definitely.
And if you drive, then you can't be safe from potentially being pulled over and being accused of something you haven't done. So it could affect you.
So it's definitely something that needs attention.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. One last time, can I have that website?
Yes, it's www.amol.uk.com.